What's up guys, my name is Caleb and today on Built, we're installing this radiator in the back of my car. I hope. Let's do it.
is the part of the show where I learn a very important lesson, which I do pretty often, and I know it drives some of you guys nuts and some of you guys like it, but I'm trying to do stuff cheap. And sometimes it goes well, but honestly, most of the time, it doesn't. So what we've got, well, let me say it this way. Almost every rear mount radiator setup you will see on YouTube is for motorsport, and they almost always, if not always, use braided hose, like an AN fitting hose, like what we use on our fuel system. Now, I love AN fittings. I love braided hose. It is so easy to work with, and it's flexible, it's strong, it's got all kinds of great qualities that would be great for the cooling system. But the one quality it has that is not great is the price. Now, small AN stuff like 3/8 inch or whatever fuel line type stuff is reasonable. It's pretty easy to get. But when you get into the inch diameter, inch and a half diameter, stuff like -12, -16, the traffic's crazy today, sorry, but -12, -16 stuff, it starts getting really expensive. So I built an AN setup that I thought would work for this car, and it was gonna cost me $420. Now, that is including the fittings that will convert your regular kind of hose style clamps into AN fittings. You can get them cheap and get them welded on, but since I can't weld aluminum, I didn't want to have to pay someone to do that. And you can get clamps that basically go on there and they don't need welding, but they're like $50 a piece, and I needed 4. So that was a no-go for me. $200 in fittings before I even got to the hose. I had about $150 in hose, I think, and then about another, like, I guess $100 in fittings, other fittings to connect everything. Would have been a really clean setup, and hindsight maybe would have been smart. What I decided to do instead is go to some off-road forums. It's really common to use rear-mounted radiators in like mud buggies, off-road trucks, things like that, because they stay up and out of the water. They don't get clogged with mud like they would on the front of the truck, and they keep the truck going in really, really rough, terrible, high RPM situations. So I was like, those guys must know what they're doing. So I went to a few forums, and I found out that they almost always use exhaust tubing. So I picked up some. I got some flat, some straight tubes. I got some, what's called, almost went down. I got what's called a UJ. It's a U, and then a J, 45 and a 90 and a 180. And then I got some rubber hose. Now all of that, the tubing, the bins, the tubing behind me, and the hoses cost me, I think around $200, maybe a little less, so half of the AN setup. But going through it, pre-filming this, it's gonna be a job. It's gonna be a job. And it would be way, way easier if I was just running a single braided hose and way more fail-proof. So hindsight, should have gone AN, but we're here, we're gonna do it, and best case scenario, it works and we don't have to worry about it. Worst case scenario, we convert to AN, and we already know the lengths and bends and all that stuff that we're gonna need. So, you know, you live and you learn. But we're gonna try this, and if it goes well, maybe it'll go well. I don't know. Let's do it. So I decided to run everything through the cab. It just won't fit under the car. And to keep myself from getting hit with coolant if a hose blows off, we're going to do the entire interior in metal. So we'll weld together some custom metal tubes to transfer the coolant from under the hood to the new rear firewall we're going to build. From there, we'll use rubber tubing and hose clamps and things like that to get it to the radiator and to the water pump and thermostat and all of that stuff. But inside the car, there will be no points of failure. We'll just have to make sure that everything gets welded really nice and clean. So I'm not the best welder. In the world, and I want to make sure this thing's not going to leak once we get it done. So what I'm doing is filling it up with water. I've got these little caps that came on my radiator. We just cap it off on either side, and I'm going to move it around. You can see, I hope you guys can see that. We'll get over here. Hope you guys can see that. We've got a pinhole right there that's leaking water. It doesn't appear that we have any, on the other end. So turn it sideways. Spill any. Doesn't look like we have any on this side, which is good. I've actually already done this once, and we had more than just the one that we have now. Go this way. The center joint looks good, and these two other joints look good as well. Just that one little hole right there. Sealing it with my hand on one end. Let's see. Definitely not leaking anymore. I don't know how focused it's going to be, so I'm sorry. But we've got water all the way in this pipe right now. And it is not coming out anywhere. That's so cool. I got this hose. It's a little bit flexible, so I think it'll make up for the S that we've got to make. And it'll go right here on this end, like that, all the way on, and then it'll take a little bit of a S turn to get there, but that'll work, and we'll just cut it right there. So this now should fit onto there, and this will fit onto there. Boom! Look at that! Ha-ha! Cool! So I haven't showed you what this looks like from the front, but basically the coolant will come in and it goes all the way up to here, which is a complex, it's gonna be a complex kind of thing to build, and I'm not sure I have all the material for it. It'll go through the radiator, cool itself off, and then come down through there and into the tube that we made. Like I said, we're gonna cover that so nobody gets burned. And then that pops out right there. So this is that tube. See, it's just loose right now, but it comes out through this little hole that I cut. And then it's got to go from here to this. This is a little flexi tube that we got going on right here. So I've got to make a piece that will connect this flexible tube down to here. Not a big deal. Right angle, hose clamp, and I think we are done. Let's do it. I got a piece of right angle tubing from the little tubing kit. It was left over actually from the first pipe that we built. We can pull our cover off, and that will slide down onto there. This connects to that, and our return system is done. I do think I have this one figured out. This little hose, I don't know what it's off of. I just found it at the parts store. We'll snake around there and then connect to the water pump, which is pretty cool. So those will be both sorted, and then the only problem we'll really have to solve is with the radiator in the back. Oh yeah, that's good. Cool. We could even probably bend it a little bit to get us where we want to go. Now how far? Woo boy! Look at that! Yes, man! There! Nothing to it. We'll have to get that to slide on a little bit more, but you can see that puts us right where we need to be. The next step of this process is to make sure that these pipes are not going to leak at all. We know they won't leak with water just sitting in them, but when it gets pressurized, who knows? So what I'm gonna do is take some JB Weld and just spread it onto all of the joints. My hope is that this will fill in any small pinholes, or I guess we don't have any more of those, but anything that's microscopic that we just can't see right now, but that would show itself under pressure. To make sure that everything gets filled, I have hooked up my shop vac to these lines, cut the shop vac on, and it'll literally suck the JB Weld down into any sort of crevices or pinholes or anything that's going to cause issues later on.
All right, there we go. We got a nice kind of rubberized, very hard coating on every single joint. This is as sealed as they're gonna get. Like, I don't know if they're gonna get much more sealed than that. I think they look pretty good too, considering what it is. Now we've got to paint it. Before we paint it though, what I'm gonna do is go on every end where a hose will be connected, and we're gonna weld on kind of a, like a bead. So instead of pushing a bead in, because this, I don't think I'm gonna be able to just like make my own beads in this. My bead roller doesn't fit in there, and I can't think of another way to do it. We are going to weld a bead on. That hose will go over that bead and then clamp on the other side of it. That'll help just with sealing under pressure. So we'll do that, and then we'll paint the whole thing, both of them. All of the pipes that are going in, they'll also get beads welded on them, the ones that are joint pipes, and some of them are gonna get silicone together. And then we will have a cooling system. And my swirl pot is supposed to come in tomorrow. So maybe we'll get that set up as well. If we don't get that set up in this video, we will get it set up in the next video or another video. But we're gonna go, this video will go out either way, because I've set a ridiculous deadline on getting this thing done because I just need to get some projects done. I would literally work on projects forever, every single day, and never complete them and be happy. That's true. But we need to move on, and we need to get some more stuff done. And I'm ready to see this thing in paint. So I've set a crazy deadline to get this thing into paint, and we're moving, and I think we're gonna hit it. It's gonna be really tight, and next week is very important. So we're gonna get this stuff in for sure, get our swirl pot in if we can, and then next week we're gonna go headstrong into finishing up bodywork, finishing up some fiberglass fab, and I've got a cool video coming out for you guys on how to prototype parts. We'll do that as well. It's hoodie season, which is pretty awesome. These hoodies I don't sell, but one day a year, Cyber Monday. So this hoodie will come back, and it'll be for sale for one day on Cyber Monday. So get ready, pretty excited. I'm excited about the cold now. Give me a month, I'll hate it. All right, so let's see. Weld on things, paint the stuffs, put it in, cooling system. It's just way more complicated than I ever wanted it to be.
So the whole time I've been building this, I've had these fans and I didn't really know where I was gonna put them, on the front as push fans or on the back as pull fans. I thought I was gonna use the back, but I really wanted them on the front so that you can see them through the glass and through the spoiler and all that other cool stuff. I think it'll just be a cool thing, another moving part, and just more kind of, I guess, engineering to see on this car. So I wanted them on the front, and when I clearanced for the hoses, I was able to put them there, except the original hose I had on here ran this way across the radiator, which obviously inhibits flow, but also just there wasn't enough room. We've got like a 1/2 inch of clearance from the fans to the deck lid. And so I went and picked up this flexible hose. This is just like a radiator hose with a spring kind of wound up inside of it so it doesn't kink in on itself. So you can really make it do some kind of crazy stuff. And we got it to do this. Now I do have one order that's a right angle, so it comes out at a right angle and then is flexible. And I think we're probably gonna swap to that because this gets pretty narrow right here. So we'll probably swap to that right angle flexible later. I just zip tied it down here to my support so that it would hold this shape. And it does. Now you can see we've got tons of clearance. We don't have any issues. We're not hitting anything at all. Our fans fit, the hoses fit, everything finally fits. I went ahead and ran some tacks across the top of this. We'll continue to do that. You got to keep from getting this stuff too hot. So I'm just doing it and then doing something else and coming back and running another set. I think the next set that we do will probably be one of the lasts, and then we'll cut it and grind it and stuff. This doesn't have to be super pretty. You're never really going to see it. So we're just gonna seal it, make sure it's all really strong, and then it'll be done. This has been a project. All right, so what is next? Well, we've still got the swirl pot we're waiting on, and I needed something to mount it to, so I threw in this triangle brace right here, and that's gonna act as stabilization for the radiator, one, because triangulating it just made it so much stronger. And then two, we're gonna have a spot to mount our swirl pot, and it'll sit somewhere in this area. We'll have to throw the spoiler on to make sure we have clearance or whatever, but I'm thinking swirl pot on here and then overflow tank on this side. It'll all just kind of be exposed and awesome. I went ahead and put clamps. You'll notice there's clamps on everything. On the joints that don't have to be removable, I put in some RTV, so that's gonna glue those together, and we should never have to take those off, or we really shouldn't have any links from those, we'll see. And then the joints that I need to be removable, like to the hard lines, those are just clamped like normal, and we hope that they don't leak. So we're looking pretty good. Everything is run, I think. This whole system is sealed now, which is pretty exciting. So the next thing I'm gonna do is go back to the spoiler. We're gonna clean up our cuts. For now, I'm gonna leave the spoiler open. So I was gonna I don't know what I was gonna do, but I think what's gonna be the best thing to do is just cut out a big open hole for all this stuff and just leave it open. We may make a cover for it or a scoop or something later, but for now we're just gonna open it up and leave it open, kind of ant care style, and just run it that way because I think it'll be really cool, and I kind of want to show off all the stuff we've done back here. All right, and that is a rear-mounted radiator. Very, very excited. We cleaned this up. We've still got a little bit more clearancing that's possible from our welded edge to where we've got little scraps and stuff, but that's okay for now. We will go ahead and get that welded up in the next video. I've decided I'm gonna make a part 2 of this. Let me show you this real quick. My swirl pot did come in, and with a rear-mounted radiator, these are pretty essential. And basically what this does is it bleeds off air. So this will go to a regular coolant reservoir, but this is going to be something that just continuously kind of makes a vortex with our pressurized coolant and creates separation between the air and the water. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the next video, but I'm about to install this thing, and I know I'm going to open a little bit of a can of worms. I think it'll be probably a shorter video to get this thing filled and working, but we've got to get coolant in it, we've got to get this thing installed, we've got to get a belt so that we can run our water pump, and we've got to wire up our alternator. And it probably will only take me about a day, but I just want to go ahead and get this video out there for you guys, and we'll do a part 2 probably midweek next week where we put this in, fill everything up, and just see if it works. I think it's going to work. I feel pretty confident. We may have to shore up some connections, but I think it is going to work. But we'll see next week. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments below everything I did wrong and everything you liked about it as well. I am super stoked with how this thing looks, and I think it is just going to be an awesome thing to behold when everything's put back together. Speaking of everything being put back together, I have set a deadline for this car. I'm not gonna tell you in this week's video, I'll tell you in next week's video, because next week, I'll know if I'm gonna be able to hit the deadline. But I've made some decisions to speed up the process of this car and get this car done so that I can get on the Datsun again, and another car that we're gonna be building next month, and get the Mustang out, which it's almost done. So we're trying to finish up some of this stuff, and I had to make a few decisions that are all good, just a little different for the channel. And this was one of them. So I think that we'll be done very soon, and I will tell you, like I said, more about that next week. Next week's video, next weekend's video is going to be prototyping parts. We're making some custom parts for this. I'll show you guys how to do that. Hopefully it goes well. I'm not quite done with it yet. And then, like I said, I'm gonna try to shoot for a midweek video this week, filling the cooling system, running it, and hopefully watching it do its magic. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.